Horror Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Willikers, sweet mustache, kablanners, why bless my buttons, bless them all day long.
Consider yourselves warned. Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we break down the Rocky Horror Picture Show in agonizing detail, 1 minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Leandra.
And I'm your other host, Kelly.
And we are joined again by Major, probably not a fundy, Medina, of Reflex Point, the Robotech Podcast.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me back.
So today we're discussing minute 26 of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is the second minute of Sweet Transvestite. It begins with Frank saying, much of a man, because at the end of last minute he said, I'm not, so he continues, much of a man by the light of day, but by night I'm one hell of a lover. While he's saying this, he's walking over to the throne and he sort of marches in place in front of it and then throws off his cloak thing to reveal that he's wearing an incredibly sexy costume, a corset and garter belt and stockings to go with his fantastic heels. He says, I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. And then he sort of pushes through Brad and Janet and then they follow him. So he says, let me show you around, maybe play you a sound. You look like you're both pretty groovy. Or if you want something visual that's not too abysmal, we can take in an old Steve Reeves movie. And then he walks away from them and they follow him and Brad says, I'm glad we caught you at home. Can we use your phone? We're both in a bit of a hurry. Janet agrees. Right. He says, we'll just say where we are, then go back to the car. We don't want to be any worry. While Brad is having this conversation, Frank is ignoring them, shaking hands with his guests, introducing himself. Somebody says, pleasure to meet you, Dr. Furter. Frank then throws his drink onto the camera and says, so you got caught with a flat. Well, that is the minute. Now let's talk about it.
So this is, at least for me, one of the coolest moments in this. I wouldn't say that this is where you get the coolest stuff because that's in the next minute, but that reveal is fantastic, and just the way that he commands the room is so just intense.
Yeah, that actually is maybe the most exciting moment of the film for me, when he throws off the cloak. And it's a huge crowd pleaser. There's always lots of applause. Every time there's a shadow cast, everybody is waiting for that. It's like, so there's always a great electric energy in the room.
Yeah, and it goes towards just how much, I don't know. I don't know what it is about Tim Curry that he exudes, but it's not even that shocking. It's not like, oh my word, what's going on here? It's just like, right on, guy, right on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody thought that he had a polo shirt and khakis on under there or anything. It isn't like yeah, exactly. It isn't like the costume is surprising, but it's still so exciting to see it, and he's wearing it so well.
Yeah.
And it works really well with just kind of the old sci-fi and kind of horror film parody aspect of it, because that cape looks like a very kind of distorted version of a Dracula cape. And then he throws that off and it's kind of like going, oh, it's not like that film. It's a whole new thing. This isn't your mom's musical.
I also really love when he throws the drink into the camera, because that's always a really fun moment to watch when you're seeing a shadow cast. I've seen it at our show many times because, of course, you throw the drink out into the audience, and I've seen it really surprised some people who got it straight to the face. And we've all been there, our first bukkake, but it's what? No, Leandra, not.
No.
But I mean, really, like,
listener, Leandra is shaking her head emphatically, yes.
yes,
No.
yeah. But yeah, the thing is, like, people are warned that they might get wet, but I don't think if they haven't been to the show before, they're expecting a glass of water to be thrown directly into their face. So the reaction is sometimes very funny.
Is there an in-canon explanation of what was in the water cooler?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. So in previous minutes, you take a look, and the water that's in the cooler is a kind of a deep red because it is not water. It is, in fact, a red, full-bodied, I'd assume, wine. So he's actually getting himself a little bit of wine, takes a sip, and then he doesn't want it anymore, throws it out directly in front of him where there are Transylvanians. So he's spraying somebody. And yeah, that is alcohol that he's just throwing onto the masses.
That is a baller move right there. Have wine in your water cooler.
Oh, yeah. Last minute, I promised to talk at great length about Frank's costume, and I will absolutely keep my promise. I'm not going to directly quote Ruth's anal retentive Rocky Horror costume site, but I'm probably going to get close. So, Ruth, if you're listening, thanks again for the outrageously detailed notes. As usual, you're the best. Thank you. So the corset looks suspiciously like a vest-style underbust corset worn backwards, in that it has straps like a wide-strap tank top, and it covers the midriff. So Tim Curry's Frank corset is fairly short torsoed, but Ruth on her website is pretty clear to say, you know, you don't have to do that. You don't have to keep your spare tire out. So it's also lined in white. From looking at the film, I'm pretty sure that there's a zipper in the back. I think everything's covered in sequins, and the sequins are black, green, dark blue, magenta, and there are a couple of gold ones. They're in groupings, and they're heavily kind of at the front, but not so much on the arms, and they are a little bit heavier on the back, but not by a whole lot. They're likely glued on, given that Sue Blaine did this all herself. Frankfurt is also wearing oversized pearls, separated with this little itty-bitty bead in between them, and he's wearing black, half-finger, elbow-length opera gloves with the fingers cut off, and there's like silver threads kind of in the fabric. The wrist closes with a button, which is something that you see a lot in older opera gloves. They generally don't have a lot of stretch. So you see this a lot in like Victorian Regency era costuming, even, where even if you have a long opera length glove, in order to keep it nice and tight around the wrist, there's actually a little hoop of fabric and a fabric button. And Frankenfurter's gloves are very much that. So that's on both of them. And on the left inner elbow, he's got 2 dirty Band-Aids crossed, covered in blood, and he's wearing a black garter belt, back-seamed fishnet thigh highs, and black satin underoos. Of course, on the right ankle, there is a 3-row rhinestone anklet. A tip for all of you shadow casters and cosplayers out there, really the best recreation of this I can get just off the rack is often for sale at Michael's. More or less done with the costuming. There are a couple of other fun things to throw out there, though. You can kind of see Frank's tattoo as he's strolling down the red carpet after the reveal. You do get a much better view of it later on in the minute. And he's kind of skipping when he goes down the red carpet. And when I do the little skip at that point, if I'm playing Frankenfurter, I look like a smug toddler marching. I do not have the sex appeal or the charisma to accurately be Frankenfurter. I just look cute. And if you think that I'm at all exaggerating, Dan, when you edit this, feel free to weigh in.
He did not.
I do think Leandra has a lot of sex appeal. I know that Dan will have his own opinions, maybe, but I do know that it's not that you don't have charisma or sex appeal, because you do, but there's a certain like attitude Frank has, and you come at it a lot of times more from like a place of silliness, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, I am very silly.
Yeah.
So this tattoo that I talked about briefly, it is a red heart with a green dagger through it. There are 2 blood drops on the right of the heart and 1 blood drop on the left, kind of dripping from the point. Over top of it, it says boss in these very ornate lettering. And he also has another tattoo that I don't think you can super see in this one, but it is 4711 written on his right thigh in little pinpoints, which is something that it took me, I think, a decade to see that and go, oh.
What does that mean?
4711 is a perfume brand that when it was most popular, it was used a lot by people who were characteristically kind of in the fop region of sexuality.
Okay.
So it was very much kind of a handkerchief of its own.
I see.
And
akin to CK1 in the 90s.
yes.
I see.
So one of the weird things about the water cooler, and I know that we talked about this already, the cup that he uses, it looks more like a snow cone cup, like it's just a cone instead of an actual cup. And I think that that was actually pretty standard for coolers of the time, but at least to a modern audience, that just looks very weird.
Oh, I don't agree. I still see those at water coolers.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm on crack. I'm sorry.
You are on crack, yes. But also, I do think that, like, I also see, like, normal cups now. So maybe they're less common than they used to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are still a thing.
All I know is I now want to drink wine from a water cooler in a snow cone cup.
Oh, absolutely. Ooh, snow cone slushies made with wine.
Or a Dixie Riddle cup or something like that.
Yeah. So I know that we've talked a lot about how Frank makes you feel some kind of way, Major. I think that it's the fact that Frank gyrating while walking down the steps after that reveal, the fact that it's a very sexual thing for most people and almost not a sexual thing for me is probably one of the first indicators as a young child that perhaps I was not 100% straight. So it was a sexual awakening moment, but in the reverse.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I mean, hot.
That thing is pure sex. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And I feel like I wanted to be Frank more than anything watching that the first time.
It checks out.
Yeah. It's one of those for me. I was watching it knowing I was a Brad, but wanting to be Frank.
My biggest sexual awakening in this movie is very far away, but it's Brad's floor show.
Oh, okay.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I guess, if I squint.
I don't know. Something about his performance in that. It could just be because Barry Bostwick is and was so my type. Barry Bostwick, listening? Call me.
Hopefully.
Dick pic?
This is now the 3rd time that we've asked Barry Bostwick to send us a dick pic, and it will probably be the 3rd time that he doesn't.
Yeah. If he ever was inclined to listen to our podcast, this is the moment where he would be shaking his head and frowning and turning it off, dragging it into the trash.
I don't think so. Uncle Barry loves Rocky, and I saw him sit through an entire kind of skit of somebody making fun of his interactions in Jump for Your Love, which was a a video that he did as, I think, a fundraiser, and the person doing the skit as Brad just started screaming, "Oh no, I fell, I broke my taint," and just started screaming about this. And Barry Bostwick was just giggling through the entire thing. So he's fun.
Yeah, he is fun, yeah. And he's, from everything I've heard, he's a great sport.
Well, next time there's a Spin City con, you can accost him for a dick pic.
Yeah. Be escorted out by security.
But those were really all of my notes for this one. I know that perhaps that wasn't so many, but it was so boring for one person who is still listening to this. And if you find that boring, why are you listening? Just turn it off.
Yeah, if you're not wanting to hear a bunch of detail notes, then I don't think a minute by minute podcast is for you. And I'm sorry if it took you this many minutes to figure that out. So I didn't have any other notes either. Major, did you have anything else?
Okay, so a couple of things I just want to talk about. So something that endears me to Frank in this moment is his pronunciation, and it's that kind of posh, upper received pronunciation. The way he says, let me think of it. I mean, visual is
Sound.
Oh, yes. What is it that he's saying? Oh, around and sound. Yeah, the way he pronounces those two. And at first I was like, is he doing that to make them rhyme with each other? And I was like, no, they already rhyme with each other.
Yeah.
It's just an affected accent there. And I love it. I can't even do it. I tried all day preparing for this because I was like, well, I'll show him what I'm talking about, but I can't make the sounds with my mouth.
Did you happen to listen to our Halloween episode?
I didn't. I haven't gotten to that.
Oh, okay. Well, I do. Perhaps
fantastic.
Yeah, I would say perhaps the best Tim Curry impression anyone's ever done in history.
Now, I did read the description for the Halloween episode.
So you know that's true.
Yes, that is undeniably true.
If you think Tim Curry's accent is sexy and posh, I'm about to ruin it for you because I sound so sexy and high class and posh when I do it.
And not like a drunken Aussie.
That's redundant, Leandra.
And then when he breaks through Brett and Janet, he's saying, you both look kind of groovy. That smirk he gives, again, right at camera. It's such a smooth and flawless transition. For me, it's like when I watch it now, I'm like, man, that's an actor right there. Look at that guy. Look at that guy acting. He's acting the hell out of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a treat for the audience. It really is. That's just like one moment that's clearly just for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just one thing. How many times have I said just one thing? When Brad comes in, it sounds like he's talking through a telephone or something like that. I don't know if that's just the audio wasn't captured very well or if it's intended.
Yeah, it must be. I know what you're talking about, and it definitely does sound like there's like an echo or something.
I gotta tell you, it drives me a little bit crazy. You hear the music pot down, right? The music drops when Brad starts speaking, and aside from the fact that he's talking / singing, it sounds. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound horrible.
Yeah,
but it doesn't sound good. I wish somebody would fix it.
Well, perhaps one day,
voice, please, and we'll edit it in.
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's all we have, I guess we can go straight into callbacks. I have a few for this one, actually.
Ooh.
So when Frank says, "I'm not much of a man," you can respond, "I'll say," or something to that along those lines. Later, then I don't really have anything for the first chorus and everything, but later when Brad says, "I'm glad we caught you at home," you can say, "You're out," which is actually a really fun, silly one that I love. And once again, he asks to use the phone, so you say, "Castles don't have phones, asshole." Janet is going, because he says, "We're both in a bit of a hurry," And then Janet responds, right. You can say left, and she says right, and then you say left again. It's not a great one, but it is one I've heard. And then when he says, we'll just say where we are, then go back to the car, you can say over him, then go fuck in the car instead. And that's the ones I know.
And I think that you really covered the ones that I like in this, but there are a couple more. By night, I'm one hell of a lover. Sometimes you hear, by night, I'm one sick motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
And the audience participation piece to the reveal is to applaud.
Yes.
So just so you're aware, that is my expectation. If I am throwing a cape off and revealing that I'm wearing lingerie, I expect the audience to cheer and not boo or just be quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have yet to ever see a production of the Rocky Horror Picture Show where people did not applaud for that moment.
I have seen that happen a couple of times, but that's generally because the audience is just like not into it. They're like, I was just here to watch the movie.
Yeah.
So when Frank says, let me show you around, you can say like a record, maybe play you a sound like a record. You look like you're both pretty groovy. Again, like a record. Because it's groovy. I really like those things that I have to explain, even though we already got it. So then, or if you want something visual, like porn, that's not too abysmal, like good porn, we could take in an old Steve Reeves movie. You can say John Holmes movie, or sometimes you'll hear the callback of who the fuck is Steve Reeves, and they say that's Christopher Reeves' brother, the gay one. He's Superman. And that one is, I think, a little bit too long to keep everybody's attention, but I did want to throw that out there because it is cute.
Yeah.
And because I'm sure that there are so many people who are desperately dying to know who the fuck Steve Reeves is. He was famous in the mid-50s for being a movie star. He was also a bodybuilder. He also played Hercules. He was just incredibly hot and very muscular, and I think his films were particularly zesty to a certain type of man.
Yes.
Yeah.
A friend of Dorothy, if you will.
The Janet says right, left thing. If you get the timing on it, it's actually kind of cute. You go left, 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 right, left. So that's kind of where I get excited about that callback. And then there's a little bit of regional debate about the we don't want to be any worry. Some people say we don't want to fuck Tim Curry, and that is what we say over in the DC area. But I've also heard people say we all want to fuck Tim Curry, which I think makes sense for an audience to say, but maybe not what Brad and Janet would say. So,
oh, it's supposed to be what Brad and Janet say. That makes more sense. Because I was like, who doesn't want to fuck Tim Curry?
right.
Left, right, left.
Huh.
Yeah.
But that's really all I had.
Well, if nobody has anything else, I guess we can close this one out the same way we close out every episode.
With now, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so get the fuck out.